Hello again, everyone. Back for round two. If you remember last time, I stripped down, or mostly stripped down, this Epiphone dot, which is effectively back to bare bones at the moment, and I tapped in a couple of loose frets. Those loose frets are still looking good, so the next task is to level said frets and, well, generally do what's referred to as a fret job. Now, at this stage, the typical done thing is to take either a fret file or a leveling beam. In this case, I have a leveling beam with 400 grit paper on it, and effectively run it up and down the frets until all the frets have been touched and they're all level. Before I do that though, especially since I'm working in low light and it's the first time I've done this, I'm actually going to mark the frets with Sharpie just so I can see that I have indeed leveled them. Normally people wouldn't bother at this stage because it'll be fairly obvious when you get a flat top on the frets which ones you have and have not touched. But just at risk of missing any, that's exactly what I'm going to do now. Perfect. Just going to give that a second to dry, and then I'm going to just run this lightly over the top of the frets. I'm not going to push down too hard in any one place. If I wanted to maybe bevel off this end, as I talked about previously, I could put a bit of pressure down there, but I'm not actually going to do that for the time being. I just want to try getting everything flat and see how it plays. So Sharpie doesn't take that long to dry. It's looking pretty good to me. I haven't yet masked off the frets for a couple of reasons. One, this fretboard is also filthy and covered in scratches from when someone's obviously trying to do something similar. And two, the leveling beam is a nice long one that's not actually going to come into contact with the fretboard. And, you know, masking at this point is just a bit of a pain in the butt. So here we go. So, what's really interesting is I'm actually having to take off a lot more than I thought. You can probably see there's still a little black spot here, for example, which I still need to get down to. I think in reality it's probably just down to the quality of the original fret job. As we know, I already had some loose frets, but I just think they're probably not as flush as they possibly could be. If I had a proper fret press or a hammer, you know, I could have really gone along them all one by one just to make sure they were in. But they've been there for, I can't remember what the year on this guitar is actually, but they've been there for probably something like 10 years now and don't seem to really move, so I don't see much point in worrying about them. But what is interesting is there's quite a big black patch here that I'm struggling to get down to, and that is the area of the fretboard that was fretting out when I was playing up here. So it suggests that these are all low points in relation to the final frets, and that's probably why I was getting that fretting out. So I'm just going to keep carrying on until all that black is gone. Right, that's finally all of the permanent marker scraped off. Sorry, it was actually the 13th fret, the one that I hammered in, that was the last one to go, probably because it's now the furthest one in. But yeah, looking good. I mean, I've actually played a guitar, now that I recognise it, I've played a guitar that's been levelled in this way before, where someone's actually just not bothered to crown the frets afterwards, and it played actually quite well. But right, so now that that's done, I'm going to clean it up a little bit, then we're going to mask up the fretboard for fret crowning. I do have an unnecessarily thick roll of masking tape, but it's the one I happen to have. So that's the masking done. It's fairly good quality tape, so hopefully it should hold pretty well. Now, as before, just going to sharpie the frets, making sure I get the entire flat spot on top of the frets. There we go. Then I'm just going to be taking my triangle or three-sided fret crowning file and working to a center point. Okay, took quite some time. You can definitely see that those frets are starting to get to a sort of playable taper. And normally at this point, I believe the thing to do is start with the wet and dry. I think about 2 to 400 is about the right grit to start with, and then work our way up from there. I've only actually got 2 grits on me at the moment. One is 1500, which I normally use wet to actually more or less polish frets, and that does fine. And I've got the stuff I was using on the leveling beam, which I believe is 400. So I think I'll try going over with some 400 then 1200. that's that done. Looking over the frets, it's difficult to say that they certainly look like frets. I would say that there are areas that look more round than others, but at the same time, that was the case after I ran the leveling beam over. Just because the frets were sort of like leveled down unevenly to get them more level. Let's get the masking tape off and see what it looks like. Now, the frets themselves look halfway decent. They're still going to need some further polishing. But I am noticing as I'm running my hand up and down here, the frets don't feel sharp, but they do feel a little bit rush. A little bit rush, a little bit rough. So I am just going to try and dress the ends on those ever so slightly. Alright, so the frets still look like they could do with a final little bit of polishing. Normally when I use the wet and dry when it's actually wet, I don't need to take the frets any further as far as polishing is concerned, just for day-to-day use. So I'm going to go over them once again, this time with the wet. That's looking pretty good. Have to look really close to see any kind of scratch marks. If I was going for a really highly polished finish, then I'd probably go over it again with about 2000 grit and maybe some metal polish as well. But this is just a day-to-day workhorse. That's absolutely fine for me. There's not any scratches that are going to cause the noise when I use them, or really kind of stand out and annoy me visually either. So that's great. Time's getting on a little bit, so I think I'm just going to apply a little bit of fretboard conditioner since we're more or less done with the fretwork. And then we'll leave it there for the night. I guess this might turn into a 3 or 4 parter. So there we have it. The fret job took a little while. I think I've probably been sat watching the TV for maybe about 2-3 hours. That's how long it's took me to do this, including all the masking, all the file work, all that kind of thing. As far as the results are concerned, it looks absolutely fine to me. I mean, don't get me wrong. If I got a brand new £3,000 guitar from the shop and it had frets on it like this, I'd think, oh well, what am I paying the money for? But in terms of having a nice playable guitar, it looks absolutely fine to me. I can't wait to get some strings on and try it, but we're not there yet. So until next time, goodbye.